Yep, you didn't misread the thumbnail. I'm actually getting around to doing this now. What's going on, everyone? And I am here today to deliver on a promise I made a long time ago and am a complete piece of crap for not fulfilling for so long. So back when I was doing my Overlord Season 4 videos, it was heavily requested that I continue doing Overlord breakdowns for all the seasons of Overlord that I didn't do videos on, because I only started doing Overlord videos like during Season 4. And people requested that I continue to do similar breakdowns for, Seasons 1, 2, and 3. I was struggling so hard to come up with the format to do this. Came up with 2 different ideas, had to scrap both of them. I reread Volume 1, and then a lot of time passed, and then I had to reread Volume 1 because I forgot what happened in it. And basically the delays came because I decided to overcomplicate this whole process, and that was a mistake. What I've decided to do is pretty much just keep the format exactly the same as I did for my Season 4 videos. I'm just going to take it episode by episode and go through and see how you guys like it and do my best. So I do want to give a quick couple of disclaimers, considering this is the first episode in what I hope to be a successful series of videos. So number 1, these are not light novel recap videos. I am not going to tell you every single thing that goes on in the Overlord light novel. If you want to know everything that goes on in the Overlord light novel, you're going to have to read it yourself. So what I'm going to be doing in these videos is hitting the big things that were missed in the anime and comparing how things are presented in the anime to the light novel and what they mean. Really, I like to think of my videos as ads for the Overlord light novel, because while I do love the Overlord anime, I sincerely think it's lacking in a lot of areas, and the Overlord light novel is just an amazing story that should be read by everyone who's a fan of the anime. So what I'm hoping to do is generate some interest in the light novels from these videos, which I think I did during my Season 4 videos as well. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So starting off, we have Episode 1, so of course we have Volume 1 of Overlord, and I will say I don't know if this is included in the soft cover book, but this is the hardcover copy of Overlord Volume 1, and there's a few little extras thrown in the light novel like this. You get this cool little shot, I'm going to hold it up to the camera here, this cool little spread of the Floor Guardians and Ainz in their light novel illustrative format. Sobin, just amazing with the art. Additionally, you also get this, which is a breakdown of Nazarick, kind of showing the levels right there, which I think is cool. So floor 1, that's Shaltyr's floor. Floor 4, I believe that's Gargantua's floor. Floor 5 is Cocytus. Floor 6 is Aura and Mare. Floor 7 is Demiurge. Floor 8, I believe, is Victims, which is the Wilderness. Floor 9, I guess you could call that Sebas's floor, because that one doesn't have a floor guardian, but I guess because Sebas is a level 100 NPC on floor 9. And then, of course, the throne room, where all the Ainzulgone members would gather and stuff like that. But that's just a little extra I think you get in the light novel, which I think is pretty cool. So already, the light novel and the anime start completely differently. The very first chapter in Volume 1 is actually a scene from Episode 3 of the anime, and it's the scene where Enri and Nemu are rescued by Ainz, but you actually get it from Enri's perspective, which is very, very interesting. Literally, like, the whole prologue is from Enri's perspective, and you get a lot of her inner thoughts, and you also get to find out like some more about what happened in the village, like prior to Ainz showing up. It's a lot more gruesome because it describes like a lot more of what went down when the Slaying Theocracy soldiers attacked Karn Village. And so moving on, we actually get to the first lineup here, and that's basically Suzuki Satoru, who is the human that's in Ainz's body, explaining what Yggdrasil is. And of course, in the light novel, we get a much, much more detailed description on how Yggdrasil worked as a game. The light novel in this section is just loaded with facts about Yggdrasil and how the game worked. There is way too many for me to explain everything in this video. But there is a lot more detail given on the Yggdrasil game, such as like the realms and like how basically Yggdrasil, from the name you can kind of tell, but the realms were kind of like how the Norse realms, if you guys have ever played God of War, like the game's divided into realms, and a lot of them match up with Norse mythology, like Svartalfheim and Muspelheim and stuff like that. The possibilities for character creation, and also like describing the different races, such as the differences between humans, subhumans, and they're called grotesques in the light novel, but for anime only watchers, that would be heteromorphic races. So we have that first scene with Momonga and Hirohiro, and something I actually forgot about is I think they changed Hirohiro's appearance in the anime. In the light novel, he's described as being a black ooze, and I think the light novel art of him I've seen is like kind of like a black and orange mixed together, and in the anime he's like blue. So I don't know why they changed his appearance, but I think he looks cooler in the light novel art, if I'm just saying. But this section of the show in the light novel, I think is even more important because this is basically the only time throughout the entire story of Overlord that any internal thoughts we get from Suzuki Satoru are unadulterated. Basically, his emotions aren't being altered by the system that becomes present once he's transported to the new world. Everything after this, all of his emotions are being suppressed by the fact that he's an undead. And of course, I've said it once, I'll say it again, just the massive amount of internal dialogue we get in the light novel just changes your perspective on a lot of stuff. So the conversation between Momonga and Hirohiro basically plays out pretty much the same. In the light novel, we do get a little more perspective on how Earth operates in this kind of weird future. And actually, I was thinking about doing an Overlord Explained video on like the Earth of 2100, whenever they are in the future. Earth is really whack in Overlord, so that'd be something fun to explore. There's just a little more detail about like, you know, how Einzelgone functioned. Like people would constantly complain about work in Einzelgone because a requirement for being in Einzelgone was to have a job, while a lot of people, like a rule in MMORPGs was like, don't talk about real life. Talking about real life was a common thing in Einzelgone. And also, after Hirohiro logs out, you get a little more perspective from Ainz in like how he's basically been the only one showing up. It's a little more tragic in the light novel, I think, because Suzuki Satoru's life isn't very good. Yggdrasil is basically all he has. And also, you get more perspective on how far the guild has fallen up to this point. I believe in the light novel, they said at their height, they were ranked 9th or 8th in Yggdrasil. 9th or 8th, I can't remember exactly, but they had fallen quite a bit since then. But I also think that's a little interesting that even at the height of their strength, they weren't like number one or anything like that. So that goes to show you that in Yggdrasil, there were, you know, guilds and organizations that were stronger than Einzelgone, which is something I think we could do something with, you know, in the future of the light novel, anime, whatever. Also, something I actually noticed for the first time watching the anime is that Ainz didn't even know Sebas's name. Like, that goes to show you, like, he wasn't, like, you know, completely familiar with everything. And that's something that's even built on more in the light novel, is how unfamiliar with certain sections of Nazarick Momonga is at this point. So the transportation happens, and a lot of the same beats are hit at this point from light novel to anime. I guess the major difference that I would point out in this section is just how freaking panicked like Ainz is at this point. He's just like running through all the scenarios like, oh, there's no way, like we can't program taste, smell, like, oh, why we can't program facial expressions, their lips are moving, because in Yggdrasil you couldn't move your mouth to show emotions, you had to like show emoticons. And so basically his interactions with Sebas and the Pallades and Albedo in the throne room at this point are just to determine, is this real, or am I in the world of Yggdrasil? Like, what is going on? Because he is like running through a bunch of different scenarios as to what's happening. And so him giving a non-program command to Sebas like shows like, okay, this isn't functioning like the game. Touches Albedo's arm and feels a pulse and is just like, okay, what, everyone's alive now? And then of course touching Albedo's chest like basically removes the fact that he's in Yggdrasil, because you weren't allowed to do like R-rated stuff. An interesting tidbit that they give you in the light novel is that in the real world there were actually laws on not making dive games like too realistic. So like sensations had to be dulled, and that's why, like, you know, virtual games featuring sex never took off apparently in the world, which is funny because I think that would be like one of the first things that would happen if this kind of thing became real in real life. So Ainz sends Sebas off and also sends Albedo to go get the rest of the Floor Guardians, and then he teleports to the floor 6 to see Aura and Mare. Now this scene in the light novel, I mean, there is so much more internal dialogue that is given in the light novel as compared to the anime, because in the anime at this point it's mainly just talking between like Aura, Mare, and Momonga. Some high points are like Momonga thinks about when Aura and Mare were killed once in the past. It was a team of 1,500 players assaulted the Great Tomb of Nazarick. Aura and Mare had been killed by them, and he was curious as to like, is this actually Aura and Mare, or is this just like a reincarnation of Aura and Mare? He actually like considers something about that. That team was the only team to ever make it past floor 6. Floor 6 was the end of the line for every other assault party. There are a few extra sections in the conversation in the light novel. One of the big ones, I guess, would actually be something that isn't seen from Aura until season 4 of the anime. So if you guys have seen season 4 of Overlord, there was a scene, I believe it was episode 7, where Aura meets Hegenmal, and she does this breath thing, and you can see like a cloud of like pink mist come out of her mouth. They never really explained what that was in the anime. In the light novel, Aura is just like, you know, talking to Ainz, and the mist comes out of her. Ainz like gets in it, but it doesn't do anything to Ainz. But then Ainz is like, okay, wait a minute, like that should have done something to me. What that mist does is actually inflict like debuffs and like mental, it's like psychic attacks and stuff. And so what Ainz does is he actually uses the staff of Ainz Gon to summon some monsters. He stands in the pack of monsters and has Aura breathe the breath on all of them to see like, okay, what's gonna happen. So all the wolves that he summoned are affected by this debuff, but he's not, and that's when he realizes that he probably possesses the same passives that he did in Yggdrasil. Because Ainz is an undead, he has like a mental attack immunity, so like that's when he determines like, okay, I think I have the same skills. Not super important in the anime, but I think that gives context as to what he's doing in the anime at this point. What he's really doing is testing out his powers. He is so worried about the loyalty of the NPCs. He's so scared that like they're not going to be loyal. Like, what if they attack me? What if I can't use magic? Are they going to like follow me if I'm powerless? So what all of this is him trying to figure out how powerful he is and if things still function the same way as in Yggdrasil. I think in the light novel they just give you a little more context for that, because in the anime it just kind of seems like he's doing things just to do them. In the light novel it's very clear that he's trying to test out how things work. And I guess one last major note is that you get more of a perspective in this part of the show, in the light novel, on how Ainz is feeling like in terms of like how things work mentally for him. He's kind of discovered he's not tired, he's not hungry, he doesn't have to breathe, he can activate magic just by thinking about it, he can feel the cooldowns. You get a lot more of that internal stuff because all of that is internalized, you know, by Ainz. And then the Floor Guardians show up, and that's the end of the episode, and that's actually like right smack dab in the middle of a chapter in the light novel, which I kind of thought was weird that they chose the stopping point as like bam, right, it's like literally the middle of a paragraph is when like the episode just shifts over. And another thing in the light novel is that actually at this point there has been a couple of interjections into the story. It isn't all just Ainz at this point. We actually cut away several times in the light novel. One of the cutaways is once again showing Enri's perspective, but it's before the attack happens. Basically like Enri going about her day, and then the attack happens, and then like her father lunges at the guy, and like her mom and her sister run, and then like her mom gets caught up so she has to run away. It's pretty crazy like in the light novel, but they cut that scene entirely out of the anime. I don't know why, because that would have been really good to put in there. And also we get the scene with Gazef and his troops from episode 3. We get that a little bit early in the light novel. That's another one of the cutaways during this section of the story in the light novel. So guys, that pretty much wraps up my breakdown of season 1 episode 1 of Overlord compared to the Overlord light novel volume 1. I probably rambled on a little more than I should have for a video like this, but I'm telling, there's just so much in the light novel. Like I have only probably told you about half of what the differences is. There is so much information given in the light novel that's internalized and is never talked about in the anime. Like when you read the light novel, you just learn so much more about Overlord compared to the anime. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video and the format of it, and you know, I kind of wanted to keep it the same as I did my, you know, season 4 videos. I just felt like that would be the simplest way to do it. I decided that if we can get this video to 500 likes, I will continue with this series. So if you want to see more episode breakdowns for the old episodes of Overlord, please like this video to let me know. For any of you light novel readers that want to continue discussion, please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And also from anime onlys, like, you know, your perspective on getting this information, and is this stimulating your interest in wanting to read the Overlord light novel? And if you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.